First item is the adoption of the agenda. And motion to adopt the agenda.
Want it with an amendment? We do. Number 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. The amended agenda would include under item J, board business, number 5, correspondence from CUPE. And so that would appear on page 5 of the agenda package.
This is the letter that.
And it's the letter that is
trustees
circulated
received,
in front of you, trustees. Looks like this.
Okay. So we have motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Don. All those in favor? Thank you. And then the next item is the consent agenda, the adoption of the regular meeting minutes from April 22nd, already circulated, the report on indoor quality air testing, and the report from the DCSTA annual general meeting from Trustee Payton.
Move the recommendation.
Just a comment before that. I'd like to acknowledge that our board is actually two representatives on Vancouver Island School Trustee for Association Executive. I was re-elected as the Education Committee rep, and Donna Bonacorda has volunteered to be our second vice president. So we have 2 members of our board on the Vancouver Association. I'd like to acknowledge that.
Okay. We have a motion to approve, moved by Trustee Weber.
Second.
Seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, comment? No? All those in favor? Thank you. Report of the in-camera meeting. We had an in-camera meeting, a fairly lengthy one on property matters and on personnel matters. The next item is the presentation and delegation, and I'm going to ask the superintendent to introduce our.
Actually, I'm going to defer to the Secretary-Treasurer to do the first speaker, please.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jack Bernard from the Comox Valley Land Trust. He's here to do a 5-minute presentation, and I suppose an editorial comment is over the last year we've had an opportunity to work with Mr. Menard on Grand Prairie's Chief Vanier site. I can't believe I did that. And it's been a pleasure. Wonder what city I moved from.
I must say, Russell, it's been a pleasure working with you and Ian as well. You guys have been such champions all along. And I'm really here to thank you for this wonderful gift. Now that the essential Gary Oak Forest is protected, basically for all time as a park, the city is really going to work hard to straighten it up, and get it cleaned up, and the basic species out, and see that it succeeds as a Gary Oak Forest. A number of things kind of get important. One of them is getting our committee back and up and running. And I would leave that to Russell and Ian to spearhead that. But it's time to get that committee back together. One of the first jobs that I think that committee needs to do is develop an MOU between the city and the school district to kind of look at the property as a whole, both pieces, rather than trying to do a management plan for one and the other. Look at it as a whole and have some kind of memorandum that would work for everybody. And of course, the third thing I would ask for is that management plan get developed. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. The thought of using that whole property as part of curriculum for education is extremely exciting. And I have this kind of vision now of like 100 years from now, people in this wonderful Gary Oak Forest, this meadow that we created, and wild salmon coming and going right in our backyards, right in the little creek. And people 100 years from now are going to thank you as I'm thanking you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can't tell you how rare it is for anybody to thank the board.
I formally thanked the city council as well, and they said the same thing. I usually come to thank them. I usually try to moan or offer solutions to some kind of problem. But in this case, this is just fabulous. Fabulous opportunity moving into the future. Thank you.
We're pleased that you're pleased. Thank you very much. And the next, I guess this issue.
Yeah, well, it's not through you, Mr. Chair. I do know all these, I know these folks, and I've seen their work, but I believe that it's our Director of Operations that would like to introduce them.
Well, we're very lucky this evening to have a group of folks from a sampling of our local high schools who have worked hard this year under the direction of May and others as the energy ambassadors for our local high schools, and they serve all kinds of functions within the school, which I think I'll best leave for them to describe. They've done tons of good work this year, and it's an opportunity for them to talk a little bit about how they help. If you want to be maybe up front, or you guys?
Can you guys see? Will you be able to see the slides if you're? Yeah. So some of us are moving.
Just stay, if you can see better from there,
Stay,
that works
yeah,
for you.
Let's stay where we are. Yeah. So we were going to introduce ourselves. I'm May Davis. I teach at Vanier, and I'm a sponsor since 2008 for the Environment Club and the Energy Ambassadors. Carrying on together.
I'm Danica Sekowitz, grade 9 from Vanier.
I'm Shaina Walters in grade 9 from Vanier.
I'm Erin Walters, grade 8 from Vanier.
I'm Nicole Williams, I'm grade 9 from Vanier. Cypress Evelyn, grade 9 from Vanier.
Madeline Cormick, grade 9, all from Vanier.
Gabrielle E., grade 8 from Vanier.
Kieran Johnston, grade 9 from Vanier.
Amy Walsh from Highland Secondary. Grade 12.
I'm Ben Vogel, grade 12, Highland Secondary.
Okay, so the Energy Ambassadors as a collective group are a dedicated, motivated, and energetic group of communicators. We are always thinking of the big picture, always looking towards our future, and we're always thinking about our impacts on the world, and we strive to live and lead by the example. Some of the schools who've been in our network of the Energy Ambassadors workshops have been GP, Vanier, Highland, and Lake Trail this year anyways.
So especially at Highland and Vanier, the Eco Team and Environmental Club have been established for quite a number of years now. So the programs in place are now part of our regular schools routine. We have a garden club that now runs on its own, and that works or coincides with the composting that our Eco Team actually spearheaded in the beginning, as well as our recycling program, which are all things that our past Eco Teamers have started.
At Vanier, we have our recycling program and our composting program. We also have an herb garden, and we do e-waste collection. And then we have school support for initiatives for teachers and other groups in the school.
What we found is important now, since we have these established networks, is to maintain this green mind, as we like to call it, in future generations of students coming into this school, and to reinforce the idea that this planet is not permanent, and we as a student body are responsible for taking care of this gift that we have.
Some of our challenges that we have faced as environmental clubs has been getting students from outside of our clubs to participate in our conservation projects. We've also had some challenges executing all of our ideas and balancing our green initiatives within our busy schedules. Despite these challenges, we still manage to execute all of our amazing ideas.
One of the biggest issues that we actually have at our school is energy consumption. So this data is not ultra recent, but it's still valid. We have, I'm sure, over 200 computers in our school. We calculated that if every one of these computers were turned off and they're not in use, we could save $50 per year per computer. So if you do the math, it's $10,000 for our school. Electronics have a phenomenon called phantom drain. So when they're still plugged in, such as the LED from your VCR or the internal clock, all using power. So the best thing to do is just unplug when you're not using it. We also calculated that if every home unplugged TVs when not in use, would save about $1 billion in energy use. So it's a pretty good incentive. Other things like monitors, printers, computers, they're all left on overnight in many major businesses, our school. So So this information is actually part of a assembly program that we used to do. We would bring it around to other elementary schools, our early school, and it really provided a good incentive to actually participate in this energy reduction, and it gave it made it actually a feasible option for these people.
So as Ben previously mentioned, one of our main focuses this year, for Highland especially, is power conservation. And we tried to do this with our student body by promoting our school's energy awareness and doing assemblies, again, at elementary schools and such. And what we found in just looking around our school and in all the different classrooms, that teachers were actually one of the worst offenders at our school.
Not just teachers, the people here.
So we've been wanting to do some steps, and we have goals in place to help that.
So one of our next campaigns is the Energy Ninja. We can thank Mr. Cohan. So the main goal was to cut energy costs and slash unnecessary power usage. It's going to be called the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark campaign. It's going to run in June. We're going to try as best we can to reduce the use of lights throughout the entire day. As much as we can. The sun's outside, we will use it. It's been burning there for 2 billion years.
Energy conservation is at action at Vanier. We, in our free hours, have designed posters broadcasting our impact of global warming on the Earth and what's happening right now. And we've also done energy audits and surveys of the teachers and students. And we found out that one of the main devices that's sucking energy are people who don't unplug their chargers after they use them, and they don't take shorter showers, mainly for the students. We don't,
Really?
Okay. One of the projects we did was called Tacky Sweater Day, and we tried to get people to wear tacky sweaters along with a trivia contest to encourage people to turn down the heat for sweaters.
The sample questions from our trivia contest was with the energy you save from recycling one aluminum pop can, how long can you power your TV? Does anybody know the answer? Power your TV for 3 hours.
Really?
One pop can.
My husband should sustain the entire nation.
At Christmas time, we did energy conservation presentations. We went to Miracle Beach and we presented to 3 classes trying to inform them about lights and using LED lights and how much you can save with them.
For this past year, we have been doing fundraisings, like bake sales, and for our local environment groups, like Mars, the Mountain Air Avian Rescue, for example. And on Earth Week, we handed out red cedar seedlings, and we did a lights out lunch, and some of our club was there for the representation of the opening of the Gary Oaks Park. So that was really cool. We did that.
Some of the connections we've made this past year, especially with the school staff helping us out, supporting our projects, and the BC Parks as well, and the Sylvan Vale Nursery for supplying us with the red cedar seedlings that we handed out on Earth Week. The BC Hydro for hosting our Energy Ambassador Club. Also the SD71 district staff and the elementary schools that we've been presenting to, such as Miracle Beach, Airport, and Aspen Park. Also the City of Courtenay and the Comox Valley Land Trust are going to be helping with the new Gary Oaks Park, so they're some of the more recent connections that we've made.
Some of our keys to success have been school-wide outreach programs through assemblies, poster campaigns, and classroom visits. We been setting the target for all students and teachers to strive for and be excited about. And as an incentive for participation, we have been doing prize draws for the kids to become more involved with that things that they're doing.
So, as previously mentioned, these clubs are very well established in the schools. So what we have now for the future to continue our goals is to encourage future generations of students coming in to join the clubs, and for hosting more school-wide events like Tag the Sweater Days, or maybe Recycle This, or having a lot more focus on Earth Day when it comes around every year. Also, and in the case of Vanier, for greening their cafeterias. What we would like to ask is for your continued support of our Green Initiative through regular communications, having focus on our Developing Green Network, and your continued support for larger projects that we might have in the future. Also, we would like you to take into consideration a district-wide green event, so we can collaborate not only as schools and student body and teachers, but we can get together as a whole so that we can really have a more effective solution for any problems, or the problems that we're facing now.
We want to thank especially BC Hydro, because they have been giving out conservation grants now for 4 years, and then our school also matched some of the money that we got from the grants. They averaged about $1,000 a year. So with these awards, we were able to put in Energy Star refrigerators in the school at Vanier. I know Highland and Isfeld also put in water bottle fountains, which stops people from buying plastic water bottles. And the occupancy sensor light switches, at least at Vanier, has really helped to reduce the energy use. So BC Hydro has been very helpful in getting these groups working on energy conservation.
So two major key players in our own Highland Eco team are Mr. Johannick and Ms. Peacock. Ms. Peacock, back in, I'm guessing around 2008, she kick-started this whole club with a bunch of other people. And Mr. Johannick has provided lots of continued support, both financial and in presence. We'd also like to thank the BC Hydro, the school board, everyone who's participated in all of our events and supported us. We really, really appreciate it. It was great.
And for Vanier, we'd like to thank Mrs. Davis, who's been our club leader, I guess, since 2008, and Angela Holmes and Mr. Hesselgrave from the school district. Thank you for your time and support.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the
So, the
trustees?
comment I would like to make, thank you again to the leaders, and maybe you can teach us parents on how to turn on electricity on too. And I'd also like to make a formal invitation if you can come to an education committee meeting in the fall to share with us your plans for the upcoming year, and so maybe we'll be able to help work together some more of the great programs you're doing. So I will connect with your leaders and we'll set the date and a time for you to come out and have a full conversation with the board in the fall. And thank you again for coming out this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sure. One more question.
Well,
sorry.
you got, this is my thing. I'm so, environmentalist for a long time now, and I'm so pleased with what you're doing. And I certainly will guarantee to try and twist some arms for support for any projects that you might come up. One of them is I'm hoping we can give a mandate through Ian to come up with some lists for our schools where at the close down of schools at the end of June, people go around, maybe it's these kids, and unplugs the microwaves. And I was in Lake Trail last year. The computers were left on all summer. There were microwave stoves, fridges that had, freezers with a single deteriorating container of ice cream in them, or an old freeze pop in the bottom. And I think we could do a much better job of, and I really applaud the work that's been done so far through Ian's office and in getting our greenhouse gas emissions down, but I just know that we're not seeing it, and these kids are helping us see it, and so make some lists up and get them down to the front office. You could count every mini fridge and microwave and computer in your school and get that list down, make sure it gets ticked off. That would be really good help.
Thanks for your encouragement. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and sirs.
We do have other male members who don't
You just couldn't bring them in. Okay, the next item is our collaborative engagement activities. The first one on there is the Education Committee report. Trustee Kane?
And I do apologize, and I missed a couple of some wrong names here. So just for clarification, under number 4, the intergenerational project at Berwick, we actually, it was Deb Fullerton, and it was Karen Weiner, and I missed that, and I apologize for not catching that sooner. So please just speak up, that would be great. I would like to acknowledge our staff for all the wonderful things they've done for last year and providing us with some really thought-provoking discussions regarding some of the wonderful programs we've done in this district. The intergenerational project at Berwick is just an example of the relationship we have with our school district and the community. And when you look at the pictures and the highlights that's on there and the conversations from the parents and the students, I think that's probably one of my most favorite things this year to actually to watch and participate in. When you have 5-year-olds going to hang out with a group of wonderful people at the Berwick Center and playing drums and singing and the artwork, and just shows the great community we have. And this would not happen without the wonderful dedication of those teachers and also Mr. Douglas for all the hard work that you've done. And hopefully over the next year we'll have some more wonderful presentations. And do you need to add to that, Mr. Douglas? Because I know that you're very part of that program.
No, I think that I wasn't here last week, but I know that you saw the wonderful Mother's Day presentation, and there was over 100 people in there, and it was just incredible. Helen Austin had just won the Juno Award for the Children's Songwriter of the Year, and she was there presenting, and her and her son were playing, and it was just such a wonderful thing. So we hope to be able to carry the project on next year.
I was particularly impressed by the work of Karen Dawson in supporting teachers, helping teachers to adapt and adopt the new technology. I thought it was a very fine presentation.
I also like the fact that the Karen Dawson program is also supporting for parents and students. I think with the technology going, with the technology of the iPads and the iPods and all the other stuff in there, that's going to be a new evolution for students and teachers, and she's really done a wonderful job. And there's my report and motion to accept as presented.
Second. Any further questions, comments? No? All those in favor? Thank you. The next item down under strategic direction is the Educational Evolution Committee. Remember that this group is working on a set of board expectations for student development in the district. And we have a draft document which we've already presented, but we have a plan for authenticating our expectations for students by reference to the student group that we will be meeting in June, the grad lunch that we have annually. And we also will, of course, be going to the DPAC at some point, and we will ask individual trustees to go to their own school packs to help authenticate this document and or change it and modify it. That's all on that. Superintendent, educational update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of you that are not aware, and there's nobody in this room, I would normally at this point in time, Superintendent, just in case there are parents in the audience, to signal that we will be involved in job action on Thursday. The BCTF has served notice that teachers will be withdrawing their services, and a series of, across the province, a series of circulating job action. Our day is Thursday. I would say to you that we are organized from that day from a district perspective. I believe the teachers' union are organized from their perspective. And we appreciate that we've had reasonable and respectful communication around that. I have signaled twice to parents through both a letter that went home through students and emails that where if we had email addresses to send those letters to, and certainly on the website and as much through the media as we've been able to do so, that Thursday will be a day of non-instruction for students. We simply don't have the ability with supervision and safety issues for excluded staff to supervise and teach students during those days. It's our expectation that in addition to the withdrawal of services, there will be picket lines around our school sites, and in that case we are expecting that there will be decisions made on the part of CUPE to either cross the lines or not. It's our expectation that there would be not enough CUPE staff to help us supervise or deliver instruction. So that's the reason why the schools will be closed. We have a number of sites where there are daycares on site. They're either shared partnership or they are a contractor. And for this Thursday, we have asked those contractors to make alternate arrangements or to close their daycares that are on site. Some of them, I think, are moving to another site for the day. They're taking students on an outing or doing something. And as we move into the future, the original signal would be that this would be rotating, perhaps week by week. I had understood that we might have heard yesterday when next week might be, and I haven't heard that, and I don't know that anybody has. And so I don't know that that might mean that we would not be hearing that this week at all about next week, and that might mean there aren't any next week. But I suspect between now and Friday we'll hear if there will be another rotating strike in the Valley, and at that point I will follow the same communication mechanism that I have so far in letting people know. So that's my report about the job action.
Okay. Comments, questions? No? Thank you. Next item is the trades pathway.
Just wanted to update the trustees. Normally Tom DeMeo would be here. I think you're aware that he's away from the district today on a personal issue. There had been some concern. I think I had answered a couple of questions on the part of parents who had emailed and a lady that had phoned me, and I know a number of trustees had asked me to clarify that about the what appears to be a new sort of direction around trades, or new focus or attention based on trades, and whether or not that actually was a signal that there was a lack of value of the academic subjects as well. And I guess what I'd like to say clearly, what I've been saying, is that everything that I have heard from the ministry, everything that I read, and every direction I get from the ministry as a system leader tells me that it isn't that it's one or the other. That we've always had a place for trades in our school system, and there have been times, and I'm old enough to know that there have been times when there's been more focus on trades than less. It kind of goes like this. But clearly it isn't at the cost of academics. Where we are, I believe, in everything we know about students and how they learn and what the world will be demanding of them in terms of employment, is that we need to provide equitable access for all students to find their passion and their pathway. And that if their passion and pathway is the academic stream, and they are going on to university, or they have their inspiration around a career that creates a university path for them, we need to be able to support them on that path. But accordingly, there will be some students, and the irony is the research shows that it's actually more students, who will end up in a place where they are either inspired or driven or directed by what they believe they want out of their career path to engage in a trades pathway. And so what I believe we're seeing from government is a re-energizing of the trade pathway in a 21st century kind of way, an understanding that we have to look at trades differently. Makes sense, because we all believe that the jobs of the future will look very different than the jobs that we currently have now, and certainly some of us are old enough to believe we can't even imagine what the jobs will be 25 years from now. And so what you're hearing from government and from the Ministry of Education is a permission and an expectation that school districts are offering students trade pathways in a way perhaps that some districts haven't done before. We have embraced that, and we did that for the Valley about 5 years ago. We really seriously looked at what we were offering, and we revamped it. We've advanced it, I would say, and we currently offer for a small district many more trades than you will find in lots of other districts, including bigger ones, because we were listening to our students and our parents who were saying that not all students were going on to university, and that there was an expectation that we would prepare those students for the world of work outside of school. And so simply what I would say to you is that we will continue to be innovative and creative around trades pathways. At Isfeld in September, for example, there will be the launch of a new ACIT carpentry program in that building. We have a highly successful ACIT auto service mechanic program that really is a premier program in the province. It's a testimony to both the teacher that's there, the students who are going there, that they are highly successful and that their actual success rate within that program surpasses the programs that are entry level at the colleges. The graduation rate in our program here in the Valley surpasses North Island's graduation rate. And our students get that program in high school in a setting that is familiar to them, and they get credit for that and move on at an advanced level to North Island College. So we are currently working on an early exposure, of course, to trades. I think you've all heard about the TRIA Trades program for elementary students. It's the idea that young men and women, and we're talking young now, they might be in grade 4 and 5 and 6, or having an opportunity to go for a half a day, and some of them in mixed classes as high as grade 7, you're correct. They get an exposure to plumbing, to welding, to electricity, and to carpentry, just to pique their interest, to have a chance to use some tools, girls and guys, to know that there's an opportunity to work with their hands. And then our plan would be to plant those seeds and then to grow them in the junior grades with more exposure. So from somewhere between grade 7 and 10, providing them with continuing exposure to that so that they can make some good choices in their grade 10 years in terms of the pathways that they go. The other thing that we've actually innovated here and has now been picked up by the ministry, and it's probably going to be available very soon across the provinces, there is a creation of a course called The Patch through Navigate and Randy Gray and Stu Savard. And many of you who have students who are graduating, and probably more boys than girls, which is a tragedy because there's no reason that girls shouldn't be working in the oil patch. But one of the things that our students are realizing that when they graduate and they think they're going to go to Alberta or to Northern British Columbia and work and get work, there is a series of certificates, safety training, and some specific training around the use of machinery and chemicals that they need to have done prior to their application, or if they do have it done prior, they've got their certificates, they get the edge over folks that are not. And this course will allow them to pick that up in grade 11 and 12 for free from us. And they can do it as an additional course, as an online learning course, and they will have those certificates with them when they make those applications. And it opens up that oil industry job for them in a way that perhaps they would have an advantage over other students and other young men and women who are coming out at 18, 19, and 20. So that's called The Patch, and it's been very successful so far. We have a number of students registered in it, and their feedback as they apply to some of the bigger corporations as they're graduating is surprised that they have that certificate, those certificates already, and it seems to be a little bit of a leg up for them. And it also exposes them to what will be required in their industry, and for some of them, even though they've passed some of the courses, some of the feedback to their teachers have been, maybe not so much what I want to do, which is good, rather than going all the way out to Alberta or to Northern British Columbia and finding that out in the middle of minus 50-degree weather in December, because they've realized what's expected of them. So there's a number of things that we're working on, and it isn't at the exclusion of the academic pathway. And it's just simply, I believe, I've been describing it as a re-energizing of the focus on trades as a viable option of the same value, not the poor sister that it used to be towards academics, not at the exclusion of either.
Okay. The next item is one of our strategic priorities, engaging the community. We're frequently told that we don't do a very good job of engaging the community, but here you all are, so we're doing something.
Or somebody is.
Somebody is, yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Trustee Gridham is the chair of that committee.
No, I'm not, but we don't have a chair, but I'm happy to speak.
Okay.
And I'll invite my colleagues to speak if they would like to speak as well. And that is Jill McDonald and Paula. First of all, we do have 3 goals, as you can see in your minutes, and we have also included a toolbox talking about why we should engage our community, engagement principles, etc., focus groups, World Cafe, things that we can do in order for that to happen. One of the things that we have done is, under goal number 1, we have contacted BCST pardon me, BCSDA, and they have come up with a package for us, and they are willing to come over and give a program. And our feeling as a committee is that we should also include our partners in our municipalities and our regional district as certainly as a starting point. Certainly from my experience in the past, at one point school trustees and municipalities and regional district did get together and have conversations of common interest that for one reason or another, sort of kind of disappeared. And I think it's important from our perspective that issues that are coming up for this school district, our municipal partners need to know what's going on. And conversely, what's going on in the community, we should know what's going on in the community. So it's a shared process. So our recommendation is that that we have the potential of a joint session with municipal partners to be explored that would include training and program development, and our recommendation is that would happen in the fall sometime. My colleagues like to add anything to that?
Okay, thank you. The next committee is the Relationships Committee. There's no reports from them. So on to the good news items from the superintendent. We're on to page 16 now in your package.
And of course, for you, Mr. Chair, and to the trustees in the gallery, this page is always full. There are always great things to celebrate in our district. As staff, QP staff, teaching staff, principals and vice principals and parents work together to enrich our kids' lives, particularly not just inside the classroom but outside as well. I don't want to read through it all, but if you just look, you can look at the variety of offerings since last month when we talked about a whole list of other things. One of the best parts for me is to see the variety, not just from sports, but there's fine arts involved here. Of course, the robotics championships, the incredible success of our robotics students as they went to the World VEX Robotics Championship in California. This is a major worldwide event with teams that come from private schools, teams that have been working together for years and years on end, teams that are, I have to be fair, to resourced at a high level in terms of dollar value in a way that we couldn't in public education ever compete with. And our students went, and the Mark Isfeld team placed third overall. The Navigate team, which had only been together for less than a year, did extremely well at 23rd. We're talking hundreds of teams that they were competing against. And of course, it is probably one of the biggest delights for a robotics student to be in this environment. It's a 3-day immersion in robotics competition. And if anyone has ever been to a VEX competition, the best part, kids don't always get this, but the adult best part of this is that when you advance, when you move and advance, you actually combine with other teams. So you start in as your singular team as your school or your school district, and as you advance to the gold medal round, you actually are recruited by other teams, and the teams are combined. So there's this huge piece of teamwork that occurs to get you to a competition like this with your own team. But then you will see an ISFELD student with a student from California and a student from France and a student from somewhere else, and they combine. And so by the time they get to the very end, which is the team gold medal, which is not about individual schools, they've been working through a series of days where the kids have been checking each other out and seeing who would be their best team partner as they actually make combined teams. And so that's just the magic that is just as exciting as the robots that they build and the challenges that they make. And so that's probably the hidden curriculum that talks about collaboration, teamwork, innovation, and respecting each other, very much like the DI curriculum. So for me as a superintendent, it's one of my best parts when I get to go and judge these things, is to see the most unusual group of kids combining together at the very end on the last day for this extraordinary experience, and they're all cheering for each other because they've all been part of that all the way up the ladder. It's quite fun. Finally, just wanted to recognize that I talked about the automotive service, the ASIC program at Highland just earlier, and there is our congratulations to Matthew. Matthew earned was the gold champion. That's the Canadian gold champion in his field, which is automotive service technician. Again, that's a 2-day event where he is set by himself a set of tasks in which he has to problem solve, build, create, and deal with adversity because there are challenges where he doesn't have all the right equipment. And he was a gold champion, a national winner. So that's kind of exciting for him. And then if you're old enough to even smile at the word smoke on the water, I've actually seen the video. It's just hysterical. It's just so great. I mean, is there ever in your life that you would ever see so many Lego guitars that the kids built and then they played Smoke on the Water? What wasn't lost on me is that the teacher who kind of led that was not old enough to even know what Smoke on the Water was. And I just thought it just made my day, actually, to see that. So that was just good fun. And finally, the one that's not on there is actually highlighted in the paper. Go Vanier girls. Vanier won the girls rugby championship, and you need to know that's a very cool thing because girls rugby is a new sport at BC School Sports. It's long overdue. The island are the strongest region for sure, so they had to beat the strongest teams in the province to get off the island, and then met them all again at the provincial championships, and they won. So that's a big deal. That program's been growing for the last 3 years. Congratulations to all the girls and to all the coaches. And on the island, it's cool to be a rugby girl. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to reiterate, for us, this very small district on Vancouver Island, to be sending kids to world championships. We did it with the improv team,
the music
and now with the robotics.
Yeah.
It's quite astonishing.
And
quite astonishing.
It is.
Thank you. To human resources, then we have some.
On page 17, we have many teachers retiring, so I will only them by reading them one at a time, so you all know who they are. We have Ruth Sand, teacher at Glacier View, will retire June 30th after 15 years of service for the district. Mary Gain, teacher at Valley View, will retire June 30th after 30 years of service for the district. Lynn Wilkinson, teacher at Aspen Park, will retire June 30th after 25 years of service for the district. Pat Joyal, teacher at Arden, will retire June 30th after 22 years of service for the district. And Chris Hartnett, teacher at Arden, will retire June 30th after 38 years of service for the district. So if you count all the years, it's a lot of years and a lot of good service. All of these folks will be honored at the board retirement function coming up on June the 12th at the Nathan Songs Hall. Hope to see everyone there. That's my report.
Okay. Okay. And on to, where are we? Finance. The Finance Committee. Trustee Griffin.
Thank you. Well, tonight is budget night, and I wanted to do some highlights here to begin with. First of all, we did have a shortfall of $2.2 million, and I want to quantify that. It's based on allocations of funding from the Minister of Education and the Ministry. And so that's the framework in which we have to work with. We did start our budget process in February of this year till April. We had a total of 21 meetings with various internal and external groups. And I want to thank all of them for sharing their time and their wisdom with us as we went through this process. It was quite difficult, because our surplus we don't have a surplus anymore as we had in the past, so we couldn't rely on that. We did also have budget sharing with the AEC, DPAC, and the public. And obviously the budget comments are the shortfall was $2.2 million. The projected enrollment decline is 240 students. That has a significant impact on the budget. The majority of reductions affect people, unfortunately, and the ratio is like this for our teaching staff. It is 23 FTE. 10.5 of those are a direct result of declining enrollment. Our support staff is 23.2, but that includes management positions, IT, energy, principal, vice principal positions as well. So the budget reductions are shared across all functions. They include instruction, administration, maintenance, and transportation. And it is what it is. Not that I'm happy about it, but it is, that's what it is. And so you've all had an opportunity to look at the budget certainly a number of times, and you've had it in your package as well. And if anybody has any observations before I make the recommendations, I would think, Mr. Chair, you may want to ask for questions before I start the annual budget bylaw.
It has been a very long, arduous process.
But it's been, I just, a comment before is that I think this is a new process that we started. I think it was very inclusive, and everybody was very clear on where we were going and how we were going to get there. So I was very comfortable with the process that we used.
Okay. Trustee Kate?
So I have a question regarding the declining enrollment. In the 240 is like a very, very large number. In 9 years in the district, that's probably one of the largest declining enrollments I've had in a long time. But it also puts, is that going to put us back into funding protections, and is that going to impact on future budgets? And when I look at this, and I will make my comments to the budget when we have that one, but I'm just wondering the process, with that declining enrollment, what's the next step with the funding protection? Where's it going to put that? What's going to do with that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the 240 students is fairly large, and it's mostly attributed to a large grade 12 class going out and a somewhat smaller kindergarten class projected to come in. That probably makes up close to 200 of the numbers. We did end up back into funding protection, and for those of you in the audience that don't know what that is, we have a system in BC that ensures that our funding next year will not be less than 98.5% of the funding that we have this year. And so when you drop below that, which we did, the government gives us what's called funding protection. The amount this year is $790,000. So it's our projection that when the recalc is done in December, where they release money from the holdback, that substantially all of it will be applied against the funding protection, and we won't have additional grants in December.
So it's a loan. It's not for free.
It's
you
not
have
for
to pay
free.
back.
Years.
So before we move on, I just want to acknowledge the yeoman's work by Trustee Grinham, who had the unenviable task of being the chair of the Finance Committee, which is always
But I had a great colleague.
Which is always challenging.
Lots of support.
Particularly in times that we find ourselves in. So I certainly compliment you on certainly on my behalf. I've heard very positive feedback about those who chose to engage, and I think it's very much a reflection of you and certainly your colleagues, assisted by the Secretary Treasurer in moving this process forward.
Thank you. No further comments, so I'll start the process if you don't mind, Chair. That school district number 71, Comox Valley 2014-15 annual budget bylaw in the amount of $83,890,682 receive its first reading.
You have a seconder?
Second.
Trustee Brown? Comments, questions? All those in favor?
We'll do the
second reading? Trustee
It's school district number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-2015 annual budget bylaw in the amount of $83,890,682 receive its second reading.
Second.
I have a question. I
Yes.
actually do have a question. I don't see a balance sheet anywhere that's projecting what our retained earnings are. I know there were changes since the last one about what kind of.
That's right.
Operating
The budget
surplus.
document does not have a balance
Yeah,
or a
exactly.
statement of financial position now.
Can you ballpark for me?
The ballpark is that this budget uses up the district operating reserve.
Right. Okay, I thought that was the case, but yes, well, that's good, in my view. I mean, it's good that we're not trying to save some for a rainy day, which is here today. Yeah.
It is a rainy day.
It is a rainy day.
We have moved and seconded second reading. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Thank you. Somebody like to move? Oh, we need, yes.
That the board unanimously agrees to suspend the requirements of the School Act and the Board Procedural Bylaw 2013 to have the third reading of the 2014-15 annual budget bylaw at a subsequent meeting.
Second?
Thank you.
And I move that school district members,
Can we have
You
to
have
vote on
to
that?
Call the question on the unanimous consent.Х you. And the final reading.
And I move that school district number 71 Comox Valley 2014-15 annual budget bylaw in the amount of $83,890,682 receive its third and final reading.
And the seconder for that? Trustee Danforth.
We need to vote on that.
All those in favor? Oh, I beg your pardon. Question.
I will have to say that this, in my 9 years of being a school trustee, is probably the hardest budget I've ever had to approve. We are not alone in this matter, and this does not come very lightly. This is extreme difficulty, and with it's very hard part that I'm doing this tonight. The alternative is, I don't know what the alternative is. The alternative is really we're walking the hard pace, or we don't do this, and we have someone from Victoria coming and do it for us. Every single school district in the province is at where we are, if not worse than we are. And that has to go directly to the fact that public education is not being funded the way we should be done, and we are being short-changed again. And when we come later on to the verbal report with the Minister of Education, I will make my comments to what we had a conversation with the Minister of Education. But as a school district trustee for 9 years, I will say that I'm not doing this very lightly. It's just very upsetting. I believe that you have to make a budget because we're not talking about things, we're talking about people, we're talking about the health, safety, and well-being of our staff and our students. And this is not done very lightly tonight.
Yeah, and the comment that I'd like to make as far as the budget is concerned, we have taken a very conservative role here. Our expectation is declining enrollment at 240, and if that happens, we're in a good position. We're okay financially. If we find we have more enrollees in the fall, more students showing up, then we're in a better position. So our budget will reflect that as well. So from our perspective as a finance committee, we've taken a very conservative route on this, and hopefully we'll see more students, more faces in the fall, and that will put us in a little bit better financial position.
Just a comment. The budget process is complicated by the fact that our enrollment projections now turn out to be relatively inaccurate. They used to be. First year we were here, they were quite accurate. Last year, not so much, and this year, way out. We are suffering immigration. That's what's happening. Families are leaving the valley, and that's not something that any demographic study can predict for you.
I think that's a bit moot, though. I think that the real issues about this budget are that we are not funded for MSP increases, and we have not been funded for hydro increases, and we haven't been funded for the extra cost that BC Ferries is putting on our operations around trying to get to Hornby Island for a 10-minute meeting before you have to turn around and come back again because there's no more ferries. I mean, it's just, that is the issue. It's not the number of kids, it's the amount of money provided for us to do a decent job. And the money is there. The choices being made are appalling, and the numbers are less relevant than anything else, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Okay, so much for the...
Call the question.
We need a question on the final reading. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a little more business here.
Okay.
2014-2015 Annual Facility Grant Capital Project Bylaw 126783. As you're aware, we're granted AFG every year to do certain upgrades and refresh some of our schools. And this year our allocation is $1,373,638. Obviously, the only one that gets that money is Ian. But he does a good job with it. And we do have some projects, and that includes the air filtration system at Miracle Beach, etc. So I'll read the recommendation that School District Number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-15 Annual Facility Grant Capital Project Bylaw Number 126783 in the amount of $1,373,638 receive its first reading.
Seconded. Trustee Caton, second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Okay. Second reading.
That School District Number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-15 Annual Facility Grant Capital Project Bylaw Number 126783 in the amount of $1,373,638 receive its second reading.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you.
I move that the board unanimously agree to suspend the requirements of the School Act and the Board's Procedural Bylaw 2013 to have the third reading of the 2014-15 Annual Facility Grant Capital Project Bylaw as subsequently.
Seconder for that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Needs to be unanimous? It is. And the final reading.
The School District Number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-2015 Annual Facility Grant Capital Project Bylaw Number 126783 in the amount of $1,373,638 received its third and final reading.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. So much for the Finance Committee's business. Thank you.
You got a couple
Chairman of
months off.
Finance.
Well, I thought that, this was, we just had to do something so we can staff for September. And we need to make some more drastic changes so that we can look at things where we're spending on operations and we can put that money into classrooms, whether that's 4-day week or changes in the needs for busing and whatever. So I'm expecting you to be starting next week on these big structural reworking, Rick.
Just had 21 meetings.
But we don't want to be here again next year.
Well, we certainly have to, just make a comment, we certainly have to look at other ways of doing business, and, whether that's extending the walking limits for busing, et cetera, et cetera. There's a number of things we can do, but certainly the committee does a monthly review of where our budget is and what the percentage of the budget has been allocated. And so we know from month to month what our present budget looks like, and that will carry us into the next one as far as the transitional budget is concerned.
So I have a question for the Finance Committee, Mr. Chair. Looking at the date you started the process this year, are you looking at next year starting a bit earlier, so therefore you have more opportunities to have overview of, like what Mr. Tristan, what she was talking about, what other things we can do to look at the budget for next year, rather than having a shorter time, having a longer time frame. We'll say maybe come September, October, sitting down with department groups and having a conversation. Is that something that you're thinking of doing?
Well, it just started a little late this year, and that was because of the transformation between the accounting practices, and now that we're over that, then we're in a much better position. And obviously the other issue is that the inclusion of the audit responsibility, if that carries through as part of the Finance Committee's responsibilities, we're going to have to start the process earlier.
Peter, I have one proposal. It's quite a modest proposal. I think some of you will have seen an announcement that the owner of Shaw Cable gave $17 million to Shawnigan School because it had done such a great job to make him the guy he is today. And I started me thinking, what we need is we need our community members to step up and support public education. And so I'm thinking that on a rough basis in the Comox Valley, the 1% would be about 80 people. And we need to invite them each to give us $1 million. Not 17. $1 million from each of them, and they could do it over 3 years. We would have an endowment that would generate on a reasonable rate of return about $500,000, and that would put those positions that we have had to cut That would put the LSTs and the teacher librarians and extra supports and special education teachers back in. So I'm actually serious that I think we need to reach out to the people who've been very successful in the Valley and invite them to participate in supporting public education.
They're all ministers.
Well, there's that, but think about it. School boards, it's one of the problems is we've been amalgamated to the place where we no longer control what is happening for our local schools. And schools were started when a group of farmers at Black Creek or Fanny Bay or Hornby, they felt education was important for their kids, and they all pitched in and they built a schoolhouse, and they would house the teacher, and they would provide wood and whatever. And it's all remote now, and we get this stuff about taxpayers, you don't want to pay any more, and the choices are being made, but the fact is, we need it. And when it goes off to Victoria, we're not getting it back where we need it, and we have people who could support that. So I think we need to start a campaign.
It's tax deductible, too.
And it wouldn't cost them a penny. And think what we could do with it, and think what the kids that would come out of the Comox Valley would do with it. That's an investment.
I think it sounds like a committee for further chair.
Yeah, right.
I think so.
That's the Finance Committee's report.
Okay, thank you. We, at the BCSTA annual general meeting in the spring, members of the board had a chance to meet with the minister face to face. We had a chance to make, I suppose most of our time was spent on the General Vanier, GP Vanier seismic upgrade project. It is a matter of considerable concern. We've been at the very top of the list, not the very top, but high on the list in the province for seismic upgrade work on that school. We have a proposal that our Secretary Treasurer has been working on for some time and negotiating back and forth that would allow us to do the seismic upgrade, but also as part of the process to significantly improve the school. And we had called it Seismic Upgrade Plus or something like that, and we thought, we still think? We're hopeful that we're getting somewhere with that. So we did have a chance to make that pitch to the minister. I have to say it was well received. The superintendent probably has a better grasp of that stuff than I do, but it seemed to me it was well received. I remain hopeful that that school, that we will soon get permission to do a very significant upgrade to that school, not before time. So that was the first part. We did have a couple of other issues. I particularly wanted to raise the issue of the BC Public School Employers Association, which was initially, up until the present minister took office, was essentially just what it sounds like. It was an organization to negotiate, of which school trustees managed the organization. We had a board of directors who were elected by trustees in an annual meeting of the association. We had our own executive director. We had significant skilled negotiators. All of that was swept away. And so the BC Public School Employers Association is now a complete misnomer. It is not that. It is the bargaining agent of the minister. And I don't think that's well understood. And I don't think let me be short. I was able to make that point with some vehemence to the minister. This was a very, very bad move that school trustees felt completely disenfranchised by what he had done in his first weeks in office. I can't say that I was able to influence his thinking in any way, but at least I was able to make our views felt, and it's a view that we feel very strongly around the board table. Trustee Kane, there was another issue as well.
Yes, we actually at that meeting for the first time we were had audience with the minister, Deputy Minister and Mr. McKay, who's the superintendent, retired superintendent working on board governance and relationships with the Ministry of Education. One of the comments that I made and concerns that I made was over the past number of months, you've heard the Minister of Education talk about boards having surpluses and boards having extra money for that and capital funding. And my point that I made was that in the 9 years I've been school trustee, this board particularly, we've done a very good job of, I call it managing our district. We have closed schools, we can reconfigure, we balance our budget. And my impression, I said to them, you basically told me in the last 9 years I've done a better job as a trustee. Well, that's not what I meant, he said. Well, that's what I've heard as a trustee. That we as boards cannot do our job, and therefore you have to micromanage and tell us how we spend our money. I think the tone of the meeting changed a little bit after that. But when he spoke to the assembly and trustees, and I think Donna and Paul, you can also add to this one here, when he talked about budgets, the message we got was the ministry is not going to allocate any more money for public education. We are under restraint, and it's very important that the government maintains its AAA credit rating, and school boards will have to live within the means that they have, and public education is, that's what you're going to get, and be done with it. So the only positive outcome of the meeting that I got out was the fact that they heard about GP Vanier. It happened to be the night after the earthquake in Vancouver, so the timing was just perfect, and so it was kind of disappointing to hear the ministry talk about the lack of support for public education, the fact that the AAA credit rating of province hold is much more important than supporting our students. And Donna and Paul, do you have anything to add to that, or that's basically what we talked about?
Just I hadn't heard the AAA credit report so much until that weekend, and that was
12 times in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was our meeting, but I think they heard about the venue, so I'm cautiously optimistic that that's sometime going to happen.
Okay, thank you. Any other trustee comments?
So I just find it so offensive that having told us we made cuts in order to put money into unfunded pension liability account, and now because we have that money, they intend to take it away. So in my belief that this government has a hole somewhere in its back pocket, and it's about to come out and affect its triple rating, and that is why they are grabbing money from anywhere they can get it. Something is wrong. They're going to be sued for BC Hydro mispayments. Something is wrong because they are taking money like you wouldn't believe. And I find there is, when you look at our tax structure, you look at what we as individuals pay for MSP being more than corporate tax in this province. And in Alberta, the minimum tax level on a provincial level is $17,000, and here it went down to $8,000. This is a province that has plenty of wealth and is choosing this strategy. And I don't know, when you say you had a face-to-face meeting, I sure wonder which face he was.
Just to clarify, and at the meeting, so that folks are understanding the parameters around the ministry perspective about money, is that we did hear very clearly, and we were grateful that we did, because I agreed with Trustee Caton. This district has managed their money very cautiously for a very long time. And we heard in response to the challenge, well, is there a penalty that we pay then for having managed our money so well? Is it that you now will come and take the money? We heard very clearly two things. One was that it will be done on a district-by-district basis. And we were not the districts that were identified. And that's because we have been doing a good job with our money for a long time. We don't have great surpluses from government's perspective locked away in bank accounts. And we have been following through. We are always within our estimates of what we're going to spend year by year on AFG, and we haven't been locking great millions of dollars away. So they did say on a case-by-case basis, and that left us feeling that we could defend our money practices quite well, because we don't have great millions of dollars sitting in big accounts, and we believe that we have boards of the past. The last 3 boards in a row have worked very cautiously to manage their money and their operations budgets. And so we think that we would be fine if there was scrutiny, because we don't have great gobs of money to give back. We've been spending it as we should be on students today. Unfortunately, there are some districts that they will feel the same way, but they have surpluses of dollars, and I believe they probably have projects tagged to them, but government's looking at those 5 districts particularly with millions and millions of dollars. So I think we would be fine with this group, and we heard that. I didn't say that. I'm just saying let's be really clear about what they said.
Okay, the next item is service recognition. It's astonishing to me that 3 people at this table have been sitting here for 9 years. And I find it hard to imagine people with such patience and tolerance exist in our society. And one of them is Trustee Caton.
Thank you.
Another one is Trustee Grinham. And the third one is Trustee White.
Thank you.
Hidden for
You
already got
Some kind of
This is a recognition of long service from the School Trustees Association, and I have to say that it's very well merited. It's a very significant contribution of time and energy and patience and tolerance, and I'm proud of my colleagues.
Thank you.
The next item is the suspension, the normal summer recess, the suspension of July and August meetings. We have a recommendation.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Trustee Weber. Any discussion?
It is understood that if there is an issue, we will have an extraordinary board meeting during the summertime. So it's just our regular meetings that we're suspending. We're still, if there's board business, we will be doing board business during the summer.
Okay. Further comments, discussion? No? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. We have one other item that we added to the agenda at the last moment. We received a letter as individual trustees from CUPE, and because it was received by individuals, it didn't get onto the agenda, but we have received it. We will refer it to probably to the superintendent for a response.
And I believe that we'll refer it back to the June meeting in response to the second page of the letter.
Okay, thank you. So it will be dealt with. And that brings us to the end of our formal agenda.
Just on the letter, just want to express appreciation because obviously it took some time and some effort and some good thought to put the material together. So just wanted to recognize the work that was done. Thank you.
The next item is the public question period. We typically try to keep that to 15 minutes. Who would like to start? Yes, lady here.
Okay, well, I have 2 questions. So, can I just start with one?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as a parent, and when information comes out and we get the information that's sent home regarding the teacher walkout and the teacher strike, and then how that's all being handled by the district, my question to the board is other school districts, such as Vancouver School Board, when they sent home a letter of information, they had balanced information. They had information from BCPC, from the government, and from BCTF. And I'm wondering if this board will do the same, because the information that came home to parents was only from the superintendent, the school board position.
So actually the letter came from me, not from the board.
Okay.
And it's common practice in many, in fact, what you're describing is not common practice. That is Vancouver for sure. But it isn't common practice across the rest of the province. And I wouldn't be doing that. I would be, I'm in charge of the operations of schools. And so the letter specifically coming from me would just give you the information about the operationalizing of that particular day. If the kind of letter that you're describing is very Vancouver-like in how that board operates and how that district operates. And if you were asking for that kind of balanced perspective, I appreciate the balanced perspective, but that's about the politics of everything that's gone on. That is not my role as a superintendent. And so the letter that went home to parents was an operational letter. Right?
And so the difference is
that my colleague in Vancouver would have been directed by his board to do that kind of thing.
And the board would have made that
I would believe that would probably how that would evolve. Yeah, because you wouldn't want me. I'm the CEO, so I would be describing to parents the operationalization of that particular day. That was the purpose of the letter.
I guess so, but you also had links at the bottom to say for more information.
Yeah.
So then that would be my question.
Okay, and that was in
Could there
response
be-
to parents who were phoning the board office,
Right.
not the trustees, asking for more information. And the most neutral way for me to give them that information is to send them to the links that were available at the time. Are you asking why the BCTF?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have permission to use the BCTF links on the paper, and I didn't.
Okay. So could my...
And are you a teacher? I think you are. I know you. Yeah, you do. Yeah, so that's why. That was why. And the letter from the ministry, we were directed by the ministry to distribute that to parents. Yeah. And I serve two masters.
Just because
right?
I've had in conversations with other parents that are out there and around and saying, how do they find that information? How do they
Yeah,
get sort
and
of...
and they were phoning here.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get that.
Yeah.
So,
Was that both your questions?
No.
Yeah? No, second one? Go.
is there anybody else go first?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I want to...
May I make a comment first? I want to thank you for, and I want to express my appreciation for the difficult times you've gone through, and for some of the comments that you have made here tonight. And as I will recognize that I am a teacher, but also a parent. Financially, you've talked about rainy day fund, and now it's pouring. I feel it on both sides, both as a teacher and as a parent. So my question stems from that. Doing these comments, I don't believe you have, but would you be willing to write a public letter expressing some of this outrage so that, I mean, I'm sitting here hearing it, so that other parents, other teachers can hear that you feel this way. Because again, I really appreciate some of the sentiments you expressed, and it bothers me to see what's happening to our educational system. That we're going through these tough times and knowing that it's just going to get worse. I know my colleagues, I know my wife, other parents would appreciate to hear a more public expression in terms of a letter written to the minister, a letter in the paper expressing some of these thoughts that you shared tonight. So I guess my question is, would you be willing to do that?
Well, you know, the comments that have been made, as Trustee Caton indicated, we made those directly to the minister, to his face. So, I mean, I think better than a letter speaking directly to the minister with his staff. But the other issues, the issue that Trustee McDonald raised, for example, about the unfunded additional costs, we have written several letters already. We wrote specifically about. You remember we had a terrible blow when the QP well-deserved raise was not funded. Those costs were passed right on to the board. We wrote a long and bitter letter about that. So almost everything that trustees have been saying here has already been expressed either, as I say, directly face-to-face to the minister or in form of letter already.
But the reason I asked for a direct letter is not so much, I'm sure the minister's hearing it all over in all sorts of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's more for parents and teachers to hear that you feel this way. I didn't know how strong. Hearing these comments again, I would really appreciate hearing them. And I think that it would be beneficial to the rest of our district to hear these things and know that this is how you feel.
Yeah.
I think it would be really very reaffirming to them to hear that this is how the board feels. I'm very pleased I came tonight to hear those comments. I would like others to hear them as well. That's why I asked.
Okay. Point well taken. Thank
Can I
you.
just
We'll
add
take it
that?
under advisement. Yeah.
We get that as parents and teachers all the time. Why do the administration and the management and the trustees not speak out about this publicly? Because they don't know, like you're saying, where to go to the links. The letter you wrote about the QP increase, the average person on the street is not going to know where to find that and to read it. So they are asking us, where can we go to get information? Because like we're getting this from you, which is wonderful, but we can't get the whole school district in here and all the parents to hear the things you've been saying. And they are totally oblivious to that support.
Well, I have to say that we have had very good coverage in the media. The letters that we have written have been carried in full in the newspaper. I think virtually every meeting we've had with significant budget issues has been well reported. In fact, we've been, I have to say, we've been very pleased with the quality of the reporting that we've had. Another question?
Hi, my name's Shelley. I'm a parent and I represent myself. I'm not associated with anybody. It's me. I come to the board meetings.
She needs a certificate. Yeah, she needs a certificate.
And sometimes I think I'm nuts. My family, well, my husband can think I'm nuts, but that's a whole other thing. And I come here and I get the information firsthand because there are a lot of times I go out, I hear the talk that people don't know. I always kind of get the information firsthand. I am usually, most times, the only parent here. So it's a public meeting. They are advertised on the website. I know every time when they are. So if people, I often sit here wondering where are the parents.
Thank you.
Because I do care, and I've been coming here for I don't even know how many years. And I have never seen our board this frustrated and upset. And I get frustrated and upset when I go out there and they're like, well, the board this, the superintendent that, blah, 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 blah. No, you hear all this stuff, and I get so frustrated. I'm like, have you been to a meeting? Have you heard them say X, Y, and Z? So I think if you're talking to parents, the doors are open. It's a public meeting, and they need to come and they need to hear. And frankly, I would love the company because.
Steve.
There's an issue you haven't addressed tonight about the job action and the wage rollback. I'd like to know where the trustees stand on the employer's walkout of teachers and the fact that you're clawing back 10% of the wages starting next year.
Not us, the district. You're not the district.
Well, yeah. The board, as I suggested before, has been effectively disenfranchised. We have had no opportunity to comment on any of these measures, and in fact, this is not now under the new dispensation. We're never asked to give an opinion on these actions. Now, I'd have to defer to the superintendent with the mechanism of how that works, but my understanding is the ministry simply directs the superintendent.
So
and the board has no say.
So
good.
I want to know how you feel.
Well, as I've expressed already, I feel shut out. Now, Steve, you and I have been around a while. We know that the BCTF wanted to deal directly with the ministry. Your federation's policy was to negotiate directly with the ministry, and so in some ways you are actually getting what you wanted from them, but that leaves us on the sidelines, and that's what I feel. Personal opinion.
And really, truly, we were directed. The emails came directly to me as the CEO. We're really clear that if you don't, the money would be taken from our accounts anyway, right? So there's a calculation around what that should look like. And we have, Russell, of course, then gets directed by me. And because that's kind of how it goes. And then we have a report that we have to fill out, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. And just like the conversation that Trustee Caton alluded to, the verbal conversation we had with the ministry around budgeting and how we spend our money, it's been made very clear to us for the last 2.5 years in a way that in my 30 years I've never experienced it, which is if you want as a board to make different decisions and about how you spend your money, you can't submit. It's illegal for you to submit a deficit budget. And to our faces, several times we've been told, and if you don't do this, we'll just send somebody from the Victoria who will come in and move the money, and come in and do that work for you. And that ministry has told us that 3 times in the last year. So I get an email that comes directly from the ministry in a series of, what are they called? Bulletins from BCPC, which is the arm of the ministry that would make those bulletins. And they say, thou will do, you shall, by this is how you'll calculate it, this is when you must start it, this is how it goes. And then we have a checklist of reporting through accounting that has to happen. And I'm not sure that anyone can offer a personal collective opinion, but you would hear from the board and you would certainly hear from the district, and it's the district that would be deducting your wages. That would be me and their senior management. It wouldn't be the board. They're not your employer, really. No one likes to be treated and directed to do things that way. Nobody does. Right? It is the reality of being in a situation in a labor landscape in British Columbia where, as Trustee Coleman and the board chair says, there's very little influence and any room for influence for trustees or senior management. There's no place in any of that for senior management to influence that. No vehicle, no meeting, no committee, no nothing.
Gentleman,
yeah, I have a related question then. As a teacher, given that School District 71 is our employer, and given that Labor Law in BC requires that there be a Labor Relations Board supervised vote of employers in the case of a serving lockout, my question to you is, you as our employer, did you vote yes or no?
We didn't vote. We didn't get to vote. We have no say.
There's a special
we have no
clause.
say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right. There was no vote by individual school districts because there is a special clause under Section 61, which gave the bargaining agent, in this case BCPC, and the BCTF. This was early on. In fact, this was in front of the Labor Relations Board with the BCTF and BCPC, the ability to move both you and government to move to certain parts of job action without going back to their membership for a vote. And clearly, Section 61 is the section that would be in play right now, which is that they would not require, BCPC is representing, whether or not it's authentic or not, from your perspective, the group of employers, and there was no need for it to come back to individual school districts. So it did not come back to any individual school district.
So I'm not questioning its authenticity. It is the legal bargaining agent.
Yeah. In terms of your
what I'm
ability to
questioning
influence
is
it,
the exclusion of trustees from participation. That's the issue for me. You know, what the trustees obviously would really like would be to get this whole business over with and get back to doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is running good schools for our kids. And that's the one thing that we all agree on without any question. Unfortunately, you folks out there, or at least those of you who have spoken, have much more to say in that than we do. And that's the fact of the matter. You're at the table and we are not.
So my point then is that in our democracy, then the employer representation has been reduced to one person representing BCPC.
Yeah.
It represents the government.
There's
an advisory. No, there's more than one.
Well, there is a CEO who was the executive director who was there when it was our organization, when Trustee Grinham and I were representatives, was let go. The committee that was elected of trustees as a board of directors was fired. There is a new CEO who was appointed by the minister. It's a one-man, not a one-man show, but there is one person who reports to the minister. There is no other line of authority there.
I appreciate your answer.
Peter, I just want to say one comment on this topic, because before, I think this has a really important thing about public education. I believe in public education and community involvement in this. And I believe in health, in that same thing in health and in democracy. And I know that when you elect people, their policies will have an impact. So I worked pretty darn hard on the last election for another outcome, and I didn't get it. But as a school trustee, I thought it was my job to do as much as I could in that opportunity for an outcome that would result in policy that supported education. So where we are right now, I also was a representative on BCPC when trustees actually played a role, and I was the rep, and I was invited to meetings at which I felt as a group, all of us were in a room. It was very interesting, and it was in the prior strike. We were soul searching. You remember there's been some talk about whether the BCTF was being provoked to go on strike, full strike, so that there would then be an excuse for the ministry to legislate. And so that was in bad faith. Well, I believe that we as trustees were being encouraged and led down a path towards supporting harder measures. And there was a vote, and we did not support that. And I think that that was the reason why trustees were taken out of the picture, because we didn't give the minister the results he wanted. We did not support a lockout and resulting in an excuse to legislate. And so we're out of the picture. So I sit here as a trustee and I go, well, what the heck? I would like to resign and protest. But then I think about what happened to our health system. And we used to have community health organizations which had an effect, a voice. There were, unfortunately, 5 different layers in the Comox Valley that didn't help. But if we'd had one, we would have people now speaking about community health and what our priorities were. We have a nursing station because of that, nursing center. When we have a corporate board like VIHA, an island-wide board that are appointed, the people running it have experience in running oil and gas companies, right? Isn't it Fortis or something? Jack, what's his name? I mean, there is no venue. We do not have representatives on the VIHA board. And that is why they privatized the hospitals and all the rest of it that's come out of it. You can't call somebody who is your Comox Valley representative and say, this is the kind of health we want. And that's the direction this is going. So I feel, I don't know about the rest of you, but personally, I feel like hanging in here, even though we don't have a lot of say, and the minister can drop that shoe, because he says he's a listener, but he also says he has a plan and we can go along with it or not. I still feel we're here representing this community. And so I would really like all of you to write letters to the government and tell Don McCrae he's sitting on the wrong side. Every time you see him, tell him he's sitting on the wrong side of the house.
Point of order.
Okay.
Question period.
Yes.
Well, it is a question about.
We do have another question.
True enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so it comes back to what my second question was, and I wanted to say.
Do you want us to resign? That's the
No,
problem.
no, that's totally the opposite. I wanted to say a thank you for you speaking out with such passion to both, what do I call you, Trustee and Trustee Coleman. And just speak, I want to say thank you for your not your frustration, but for hearing you voice that here. As a parent who comes and doesn't get that involved, it's certainly good information for me to hear, and I like the fact that you've been here for so long. So then my question, because I think we need to be more parents. So then my question comes to Trustee Brigham when you're and then to the board. It's 2 parts. The first part is when you talked about in your meetings about your community involvement. Have you approached DPAC and getting the parent advisory? Because I know some of those parents that are out there, and they're a really strong voice in our community, and have we approached them and inviting them to come in and hear this information? So that's my first question.
I'm going to refer to the chair because the chair speaks on behalf of the board.
We have. That's the short answer, yes.
Okay, good. And then the second question is if you've got this outrage and stuff, I guess what I have a hard time with as a parent, this is going to come as a critique, but I don't want it to because I want there to be better stuff. When are you going to speak up, I guess, to say enough is enough in light of public education? And I will certainly take that on as a parent and write that myself. I will encourage other parents to do the same. But would there be a motion put forth by the board to, even though you've gone first, again, it's the same thing, following off of what Sean saying, the same, if we've gone to the minister face-to-face, where else can we put that message out to say the trustees have done the best they can with what they've got, but they still aren't in agreement with how public education is not being funded. That would be my question. And the little part that was hard to take was, as a parent, was to read then that the trustees had voted themselves in a raise in December 2015. That was a hard one to see when I hear you then come out and say that we've got no money in the budget. So it's, I'm giving it.
Well, we do. We take every opportunity to express our concerns about shortfalls in the budget. And as Trustee Caton said earlier, the layoff situation this year, this was unprecedented for us. I've been in this business one way or another for 50 years. I have never been associated with layoffs in the past. This is hard stuff for us. And we do take every opportunity. I would urge parents in particular to come to PAC meetings at schools. You know, we have PAC meetings and they're very poorly attended, and we do give reports at PAC meetings. We do express our concerns at PAC meetings, and I just wish they were better attended. Folks, we're well over time. We have to go back to our in-camera meeting because we didn't get our agenda completed, I'm afraid. We have important stuff still to do tonight.
And you feel free to mark us contact. I know that Donna, all over, we have our numbers, you have our email addresses. Please feel free to connect with us, and then we're able to have the communication that you're talking about. And thank you for all the comments.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee